All right, it is that time here on Morning Express where we take a look at the news-making headlines in our local dailies. And of course, I'll start with our very own Standard. The headline there is NASA ready for talks with Jubilee, but on set terms. NASA ready for talks with Jubilee, but on set terms. Just above there, the top headline is unions ask schools to put on hold Matiang'i order on buses. Unions ask schools to put on hold Matiang'i order on buses. That is on our very own The Standard. To the Daily Nation now, and the headline there is puzzle of Raila role derails unity talks. Puzzle of Raila role derails unity talks. That is Daily Nation. And of course, the Star, the headline there is Wanjigi Miguna pushing Raila to take January 30th oath. Wanjigi Miguna pushing Raila to take a January 30th oath. And joining me in studio to dissect these issues is Kefa Ojijo. Thank you very much for making time. Welcome to Morning Express. I'll start with our very own The Standard. NASA ready for talks with Jubilee, but on set terms. Now, conditions. Raila, Mudavadi, Kalonzo and Wetangula discuss schisms within coalition and include expanded cabinet as part of agenda for dialogue with Uhuru side. That is on page 6. But just below that, there's a distribution of parliamentary leadership position with NASA, and we're seeing there they're divided. And the number of seats deserved in ODM are 15. Those taken are 12. In Wiper, those deserved are 4. Those taken are 4. In ANC, those deserved are 3, those taken are 4. And in Ford Kenya, those deserved are 2, and seats taken are 3. I'll just, get your comment on this.
Thank you very much. First, allow me to comment on the issue of talks being derailed by Raila's position in anticipation. I personally have done a proposal on how we can amend our constitution, to include the leader of opposition as a stakeholder or in a position, because you see, it's somehow it doesn't make sense if you have somebody who garnered maybe over 7 million going home.
Yes.
You see, it does not make sense. So I think when we did absorb, or when we did adopt this system, the presidential system, I think we failed to adopt it wholly with its features as it required. And that is why it is not really surviving well in a young democracy like Kenya. We need to have a system where at least the opposition leaders also have somewhere,
Yes,
where they can be accommodated. Because they too have a huge following, and their people believe in them. And the people want them to be in a position where they can constantly provide that leadership. Yeah. So I feel dialogue is authentic. However, the terms that NASA has always raised, I don't know. But for them, maybe it makes sense. But I see also they're shifting from the main agenda, because initially it was number one on the agenda was the question of electoral reforms.
Yes.
But now I see the most agenda is how to expand the cabinet and to ensure they are within. It's politics at the end of the day. Everybody wants a stake inside, yeah.
Kenyan politics, yeah.
Definitely.
It's like a movie. Anyway, just to the side, it's still on matters dialogue. On this other hand, NASA is pushing for dialogue. But on this other hand, Sonko rules out dialogue with Igade. Now we are aware that the deputy governor resigned on Friday, and now Nairobi governor argues Igade's exit is not a Jubilee affair, and city government has technocrats who will work with him and deliver promises made. You're a lawyer. This issue of, the deputy governor and governor, there's so much in it, in the constitution. So much has not been said on the roles of the deputy governor. What exactly does he do apart from, deputize the governor? What do you have to say about this?
You see, that is where I think we also missed when the drafters were doing this constitution, because if you compare and contrast the two, look at the roles of the deputy president.
Yes.
They're clearly outlined, and how he's supposed, even in case the deputy president resigns or ceases to hold office by any means, there are proper mechanisms and procedure on how the president can have a deputy president.
Yeah.
But then they did not use the same vigor when they were now consolidating or they were discussing the issue of deputy governor. So that the office of the deputy governor is just like any other office. Yes. There was no much energy given to it, and there's a big lacuna within that, so that you only realize that the deputy governor only works within the roles assigned to him, and just to deputize the governor in his absence, so to act in control. It is something that I think maybe the the parliament will look into, and if need be, we may go for a referendum to ensure at least this, we have this amendment. Because right now, you see, the clear law states that now Sonko cannot even nominate somebody to deputize him.
Yes.
Simply means that maybe he will have his term for 5 years without a deputy governor. He can only maybe assume those roles through maybe an executive officer of the county to assign those roles, proxy for them to perform. It is something that at least we are learning as a country. So we make mistakes and we learn from them. But I wish him well. I gather as a gentleman, if he thinks that he's not working, he has a right to resign. You see, people need to work where their conscience is and where they feel their principles are being emulated. So I've heard some politicians saying, we need to come back or we need to talk. For me, if he feels as a gentleman it's time for him to quit, then let him be.
Let him be.
Yeah, let him be.
So is it right to say this is a constitutional crisis?
It is. It's a serious constitutional crisis we have, because now you can imagine a county like Nairobi, which is the hub of the nation, is now going to operate without a deputy governor. In case anything happens to governor, what happens? The only constitution stipulates that now the speaker will have to step in as the acting governor for a period of 60 days. Is that necessary? We don't need that. You see, so we need to have a system where maybe in case something happens to deputy governor, whether he dies or whether he resigns or whether, he ceases holding office, we have another mechanism in which a deputy governor can be nominated back and even vetted by maybe the member of county assembly and then, assumes office.
All right, let's just move on to page 2. On page 2, you can see there are pictures of parents evicting school heads over poor performance in exam. Now, I don't even want to comment on this. I'll just let you do the talking on this one. Standard terms it as unacceptable. While it's understandable for parents to be upset when their children perform dismally in national exams, it is illegal and shows a total lack of common decency of parents to attack head teachers.
Okay. Anyway, I feel the pain of parents. Parents attribute success of the children with, the quality of the teachers in school, so that when children do not perform well, then I think the teachers still have to, carry the burden of such a performance. So anyway, I think this is a bit barbaric. It's a bit, backward way of doing it. But Kenyans are used to this. The other day, you even saw the members of county assembly fighting, involved in a physical fight. Members of parliament have been doing the same. So to them, it's something natural. It's very, annoying and a bit...
It's sad.
Yeah, it's sad for me. But
we always end up giving each other blows, yeah? All right, on page 3, deadly attack on KDF marked in low-key event. Now, 2 years since whilst military lost, families joined soldiers in remembering warriors. This is, yesterday we were celebrating or commemorating the El Ade attack by Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Maybe your comments as a Kenyan before we move on.
I just want to salute the men and women in uniform for the good work they are doing. I think the government needs to do more to these people. I have seen even the package for compensation that some were given. I feel as a, patriotic Kenyan, it's not worth it per se. You see, we need to give these people maybe a proper send-off. We need to compensate the family, because these are people who have laid down their lives for us as a nation. And what they are doing should be appreciated, not only even by the government itself, but all citizens of this country, you see. And our government should also be strategic, clearly, to define the roles of the KDF, what they're supposed to do. You cannot just leave our soldiers, to operate on everything in Somalia, to operate on, everything you want, everything that comes the way. We need to have a clear focus that if we're going to deal with Al-Shabaab on our borders, let it be so. So that we also, we also don't make our country vulnerable when now our soldiers are outside and now become the target of attack from outside. Yeah. All
right. To page 4 now. Unions reject directive on color of school bus. Now, Nat and Kupelt, all principals, to tell principals to defy Fred Matiang'i's directive. Now, Teachers Union have questioned the timing and financial impact of a directive that all school buses be repainted yellow and labeled in black in black letters. Let me just read a quote from Akelo Misori, who is a Kuppet boss. We are asking our members to ignore the directive and wait until the Ministry of Education sends money with the budget for repainting the buses.
I don't know how much they'll require to repaint a bus, surely yellow color. So that's not a serious excuse. I think for once I agree with Matiang'i. You know, the yellow color is a universal color for school buses, you see. And if you're also moving to the universal principles of education, we need to start having this thing. It is important because it helps us even demark, you know, and even be able to identify the school buses, to identify the children on the road, give them way, you know, these are the things. We've seen a lot of accident happening in the school bus of late because of, you know, poor instructions, you know, all that. So I hope it's for goodwill. I hope it's helped Kenyans, it helped the students as well. But to complain because of, I don't know, some coins to paint the bus, I think that is not being honest. Unless there are other issues that they feel the stakeholders should discuss, then I think the same should be embraced. Yeah.
I think my issue is either way they were going to, you know, paint their buses, they were going to do some service to it. Yeah. What's the difference with just painting the bus yellow? Like if you were going either way to renovate it, you might as well paint it yellow. But that is not my bond to pick. So we'll just move on to page 5. 200 sacked as Jubilee restructures secretariat. Now, Jubilee fired about 200 workers early last week. The Standard has reliable learnt. Those affected by the changes include members of the secretariat, senior directors, and county coordinators. Now, this restructuring that has been going on in the Jubilee, now we're still waiting for the cabinet secretaries. People are anxious. We don't know what is happening. What are your thoughts on this?
They don't need them. I mean, even if I was the one, I would fire them. We don't need them. You only need secretariat when you're running an election. Yes. It's over. So you see, it's like a contract. Their work is done. Why will you still sustain over 100 people you're paying and they're not doing anything? Okay. So I think that is them to decide what they're doing with their people. Yeah. I hope just taxpayers' money is not wasted on things which are not important to this nation. Yes. We have a lot of pressing issues that we should give priority. People have been dying because they're not they cannot access medical services. There are no proper roads, and I think those are things we should give first priority than dealing with the Jubilee, secretariat and whatever. That is not the priority. Now, right now, Kenya have, as a government, a system that is running. We don't need political parties right now. The maintenance should be their own problem. About the cabinet, we are still waiting. The president should not keep us in this position for long. People are anxious. We want to know what's happening. If he cannot deliver, then he should tell Kenyans to decide for him or help him.
But you know, Kenyans are just,
But one thing I always say, I had said this before, that this time round, the nomination or even the appointment in those positions must be different. Yes. Must be different for two reasons. One, because this country is highly divided, you see. And then two, because there is, there is the need for union that must start from the president itself. And I've always said that if I were the president now was going to choose this position, that I'll even make sure that the people who oppose me the most benefit the most in my government, because that is how you reconcile a nation. And not, you don't just appoint those sycophants, appoint people who are respected in the society, people who can reflect the values of that society. Okay.
And I always like when my guests comment on the art on page 14. There it's a drawing of, I guess this is the State House. And then we are seeing gentlemen and one with a crown saying, gentlemen, you did well with the elections, now let's print money. Now let's not forget now that still in the same Standard, there's the issue of the De La Rue ownership mystery. Now revelations emerge that the National Treasury is not among listed shareholders of British currency printing firms' local subsidiaries despite budgetary allocations. Now, but I'll just let you comment on that picture there. You know, it says that a picture is 1,000 speaks volumes, you know.
This is very, very beautiful. I think I must commend the media for this creativity sometimes, you know. You see a guy there carrying their boxes and they feel now that because elections are over, now let's proceed and print money to the bulk that we want. Yes. You know? So that it sends a message that power then is related, you know, with wealth control.
Yes.
You see, how you control the wealth in the nation. So that for you to have that position to control the wealth or to be in a position to, you know, to galvanize or decides where money is taken within the nation, then you must ascend that position of power. So that every person that vies for that office, it is clearly known that they vie for that office because of the monetary value that will come with it and everything. It's a clear message that they send to Kenya and something that we need to shift our position from, because if we borrow, for instance, in the American system, how they operate it is that even the president do not have a say on any financial issue in that country. But in our nation here, we have a country where even when the roles are clearly defined, but being in that position of power simply gives you a direct authority on the financial issues. Again, with our finances, I think the article in our constitution, Article 230, has still not been implemented clearly because we need a shift. Even in the printing format of our currency right now, we do not have, the constitution has stated clearly how our currency is supposed to, you know, to look. We don't need to have the photos of individuals in those currencies. You can have photos of animals, photos of your beautiful studio, you know, on the money. So that it is a system that is universally accepted, not individually appraisal. So that we feel like when we see maybe the late president on the money, feel that, you know, it's highly appraised.
Thank you, Kefal Jiju. If you want to get to know more on these stories, you can always get your copy of The Standard from your local vendor, your favorite vendor. We take a short break here on Morning Express, but we come back with more. Don't go too far.